this episode, we are going to be discussing how you can discover quality sea salt and what sets it apart and what makes sea salt more flavorful. Hey everyone, I'm Vishon, the TUFF Momma.
Hey everyone, my name is Chef Claudia. Sea salt is a gift from the ocean. It's not only diverse, but it has an amazing flavor.
At its basic form, sea salt is pretty simple. It comes from water that's been evaporated, specifically salt water. But that's not all. Every place that it comes from can give that sea salt a different flavor.
So each sea salt grain tells its own story. It may come from France or even from the coasts of California.
What's beautiful about it is it also, those crystals include the minerals. They include, trace minerals and things that our bodies crave. Some of the sea salt in the world's oceans come from what is called an ancient ocean. So these are oceans that have long since dried up, and it's left these beautiful trace deposits such as pink Himalayan salt. That's one that a lot of people know about. It's this gorgeous pink color, and it has a unique flavor, and it has a lot of different minerals, over 80 different minerals, because of the ancient ocean and the way that our environment was back then millions of years ago. So not all sea salt is the same. Sea salt comes in a variety of different shapes and sizes, just like people. We have, the fine flakes to the, to the really coarse grains, and even to the triangular shaped pyramids of Malden salt. So let me show you a few examples of that. So on our table here, I've got some salt here. This is our pink Himalayan. You can kind of see the grains there and how it's, this is a coarse ground salt. You would use a grinder for that one. So it's nice, big, chunky grains, okay? Then we've got a fleur de sel. This one is just very fine and flaky. It's got a little moist feeling to it. It's almost like wet sand. When you use it in your food, you can feel the moisture that's there, and it's just melts in your mouth. It's such a fine flake. And then we get into our Malden, which we use a cypress salt from Cyprus. This is boiled, and they scrape the flakes right off of the surface, and it makes these big salt crystals. I mean, look at how these are such a different shape. In each one, they're like a little work of art. If you look at them, they look like little Egyptian pyramids when you look at them. And this one is beautiful because of its sharp crunch. So if you're looking for a really nice crunch or mouthfeel when you're making like a pork tenderloin or something like that, this is a great salt for that.
Harvesting salt is a very interesting and delicate process. The really cool thing about fleur de sel is that the air quality impacts its flavor. So during the springtime, there may be lavender fields around, and you can get that lavender taste into the fleur de sel, which is great. Also during like the winter time, you can have pines, and all that air quality will affect the flavor of the salt itself. So that is a really neat and interesting process.
So how do you tell if you have a good quality salt or not? Well, the good news is if you're buying TUFF Momma salt, you already are knowing that you're buying good quality, because all of our salts are unrefined. They all are sea salts. They all have trace minerals in it. The finest salts not only have trace minerals, but they also have the brine from the ocean in it, such as the fleur de sel that Chef Claudia spoke of earlier, and also its cousin that are in the salt pools together, the gray, French gray salt, which also is called Celtic sea salt, if you've heard of that. It is always a moist salt, so don't be alarmed if it has that wetness to it. You want that because of the brine that's included, which gives it that beautiful flavor that we want in our food.
So yeah, quality sea salt has a really great flavor, and it's going to enhance the dish overall. Most of the table salt that you find in stores actually comes with anti-clumping agents such as dextrose, and all of that nasty processed stuff is included in those as well. So the salts that we have to offer for you do not have any of those anti-clumping agents. In fact, they have all of the minerals, or a lot of minerals that our body just naturally craves and wants.
Mm-hmm. And a big part too is the processed salt that most people use as their table salt. It also includes iodine. Most of the salts that are out there are iodized, and iodine tastes metallic. So
Yes.
it's not a great flavor to put with your food. It's better to use a purer salt, sea salts from TUFF Momma salt, for example, because you're not going to get that metallic taste. You're going to get the full-bodied taste that makes it a good salt.
Not only that, but don't you tend to use a lot more salt with table salts because they're so small, fine grains, right? They're just super fine grains. And you tend to use a lot more, like when you're doing your pinch, as opposed to using our salts here. So
Sure. Now, obviously, salt is, we need it in our bodies, but there is a kind of a threshold to where you're getting too much salt in your diet. You want to use salt sparingly because our bodies only need about a teaspoon of sea salt per day in order to function. And don't get me wrong, some of you that are on a low sodium diet, that doesn't mean no sodium diet. Without any type of salt in your diet, you would die. Salt is required in our bodies to allow brain function and heart function. Where we get into issues is if you eat way more than a teaspoon of salt, and that includes all sources. So if you're buying a lot of processed foods, it's probably over-salted, so you're getting an overabundance of salt. So try to look for foods that aren't already pre-salted. And I found that if you use sea salt, it tastes saltier, even though it has on average 20% less sodium because of the trace minerals. So by using the sea salt, you use less of it when you're cooking to get the same flavor as you would, like Chef Claudia was saying, with the table salt. You tend to use more because you're not getting the flavor profile. So you're going to use less of the sea salt and get better flavor. So it's a win-win.
So here today we're going to talk about different grains and how to use them. Right now we have the pink Himalayan salt. It's a fine grained salt, and you typically would use this with when you're boiling, say you're going to do some pasta or you're going to make some potatoes, anything in that nature. We're also going to have the smoked cherry. This one's good for seasoning your meats. And then we have the fleur de sel, and this one's going to be your finishing salt. I like to add this one on my corn or some of my vegetables after they're done. It's really good on broccoli as well. So these are the different types of salts that you could play around with. If you wanted a softer crunch, you can go with your coarse grained salt like the pink Himalayan, or if you wanted something a little bit extra crunchy, you want to use the Malden salts, which would be the smoked cherry. And if you just want to use a finishing salt to top off your vegetables, that's when you would use the fleur de sel, because this one will actually dissolve it. If you taste it, it dissolves right in your mouth. So
if you want to be a salt connoisseur, I think we've given you some tips to do that. So be it the mouthfeel that you're looking for, be it if it's a coarse grain versus flaky versus a really fine grain salt. These all are things that can help enhance your food and make your cooking even better than it already is. So I hope you'll continue to join us as we share our journey in the sea salt world and share some of our expertise as a chef and as a salt lover and home cook. So thank you for joining us. We'll see you on the next video.
see ya. Thank you for being here. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so we can keep bringing you some great content in the future.